I thought I'd found my soulmate. Emma Chin seemed like everything I'd ever wanted in a partner: intelligent, funny, beautiful, and surprisingly, she was into all the same things I was. After years of failed relationships and awkward dating app encounters, meeting Emma felt like winning the lottery. What I discovered 6 months later made me realize that sometimes getting exactly what you want is the most terrifying thing that can happen to you. It started in September 2023 at a coffee shop on Valencia Street in San Francisco. I was there working on my laptop, trying to finish a project proposal for my marketing job, when this gorgeous woman approached my table. She had long black hair, warm brown eyes, and was wearing a vintage band t-shirt for The National, one of my favorite bands. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft but confident. "I couldn't help but notice you're working on something related to digital marketing. I'm actually in the field too, and I love your laptop stickers. Are you a fan of hiking and rock climbing?" I looked down at my laptop, covered in stickers from various outdoor gear companies and national parks I'd visited. "Yeah, absolutely. I try to get out to Yosemite or Tahoe whenever I can." She smiled, and it was like the whole coffee shop lit up. "I'm Emma. Would you mind if I sat down? I promise I'm not trying to hit on you. Well, maybe a little, but I'm genuinely curious about your work. I specialize in content strategy for outdoor brands." That should have been my first red flag. What were the odds of meeting someone who shared my exact professional interests and hobbies? But I was so charmed by her directness and apparent shyness that I invited her to sit down. We talked for 3 hours. Emma knew everything about the marketing campaigns I admired, had hiked the same trails I loved, and even had opinions about the same obscure documentary films I watched. When she mentioned that she'd been to the same small concert venue in Berkeley where I'd seen my favorite band perform 2 months earlier, I felt like I'd met my other half. "I think I saw you there," she said, tilting her head thoughtfully. "You were wearing a green flannel shirt, right? Standing near the sound booth?" I was amazed. "You have an incredible memory." "That's exactly where I was standing." She laughed. "I remembered because I kept thinking I should come say hi, but I was too nervous." By the time we exchanged numbers, I was already planning our first date in my head. Emma texted me that evening. "Thanks for the amazing conversation today. I can't wait to see you again. P.S. I looked up that hiking trail you mentioned near Mount Diablo. Want to check it out together this weekend?" Our first date was perfect. Emma showed up in proper hiking boots and gear, knew exactly how to navigate the trail, and had packed an incredible lunch with all my favorite foods. When I asked how she knew I loved those particular sandwiches, she said, "Lucky guess. You seem like someone with good taste." Over the next few weeks, Emma and I became inseparable. She would text me good morning every day at exactly 7:15 a.m., right when my alarm went off. She'd suggest restaurants that served exactly the type of food I was craving, often before I'd even mentioned being hungry. When I had a stressful day at work, she'd show up at my apartment with my favorite beer and the perfect movie to watch. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" I asked her one evening in October as we cuddled on my couch, watching a film noir classic that I'd never mentioned loving. "I pay attention," she said, kissing my forehead. "I care about making you happy." My friends loved her. My coworkers were impressed when I brought her to the company holiday party. My parents, who I'd introduced her to over video call, thought she was wonderful. Emma fit into my life so seamlessly that within 3 months, we were essentially living together. That's when I started noticing the small things. Emma always seemed to know when I was running late, texting me encouragement right when I was stuck in traffic. She'd mention articles I'd read online before I'd had a chance to share them with her. When I changed my morning routine and started going to a different gym, she happened to join the same one a week later. "What a coincidence," she said, acting surprised to see me there. "I heard great things about their rock climbing wall." I hadn't mentioned to anyone that I had switched gyms specifically for the climbing wall. In November, I was working late in my home office when I heard Emma moving around in the kitchen. I called out to her, but she didn't respond. When I went to check, the apartment was empty. Emma had left hours earlier to meet a friend for dinner. I convinced myself I'd imagined it, but I started locking my door even when I was home. Then came the incident with my childhood friend Jake. Jake was visiting from Seattle for the weekend, and I'd planned to grab drinks with him at a dive bar in the Mission District. I'd told Emma I was busy Saturday night but hadn't mentioned specifics. When Jake and I arrived at the bar, Emma was already there, sitting at a corner table with a drink. "What a crazy coincidence," she said, seeming genuinely surprised to see me. "My friend canceled last minute, so I decided to try this place. I've heard it has amazing cocktails." The bar was known for cheap beer and stale pretzels, not cocktails. Jake raised an eyebrow at me, but Emma was so charming and natural that I pushed down my suspicions. Later that night, after Emma had gone home, Jake pulled me aside. "Dude, that was weird," he said. "Your girlfriend showing up at a random bar like that? And she kept asking me really specific questions about our college days, like she was taking notes." "What kind of questions?" "About your old girlfriends, your family drama, that time you got arrested for the protest in college. Stuff that's pretty personal for someone you've been dating for a few months." I'd never told Emma about the arrest. It wasn't something I shared with people unless I knew them very well. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the perfect coincidences, the way Emma always seemed to know exactly what I needed, and how she'd appeared at the bar. I started paying closer attention to our conversations, trying to figure out how she knew so much about me. The answer came in early December, and it was worse than I'd imagined. I was at Emma's apartment, helping her move some furniture, when I needed to use her computer to print something. She'd stepped out to grab coffee, and her laptop was open on the kitchen table. I moved the mouse to wake it up, and instead of seeing her desktop, I saw a browser window with multiple tabs open. The first tab was my Instagram profile. The second was my LinkedIn page. The third was my old college Facebook photos. But those weren't the ones that made my blood run cold. The fourth tab was a Google Maps view of my apartment building. The fifth was a real estate website showing the floor plan of my exact unit. The sixth was a document titled David_schedule_December.docs. My hands shaking, I clicked on the document. It was a detailed schedule of my daily routine, including my work hours, gym times, grocery shopping habits, and the routes I took to various places. There were notes about my friends, my family, and even observations about my moods and preferences. Monday, leaves for work 8:45 a.m., takes Montgomery St. route. Stops at Starbucks on Clay St. if running early. Seems stressed about Johnson project, bring comfort food. Wednesday, gym 6:30 p.m., uses climbing wall first then cardio. Wears blue shorts and gray t-shirt. Talks to trainer Mike about weekend plans. Friday, grocery shopping at Whole Foods on Franklin. Buys same items weekly. Avoids suggesting changes to routine. He likes consistency. There were pages and pages of this information, dating back to before we'd even met. The earliest entry was from August 2023, a full month before our chance encounter at the coffee shop. Subject appears to be single based on social media activity. Frequents Valencia Street coffee shop Tuesdays/Thursday mornings. Sits at table near window, works on laptop. Approach angle, shared professional interests. I felt like I was going to throw up. Emma hadn't just been stalking me, she'd been studying me like a research project. Our entire relationship was built on information she'd gathered by following me, monitoring my online activity, and carefully orchestrating our meetings. I scrolled through more files. There were photos of me that I'd never seen before, taken from a distance while I was hiking, working out, or grabbing lunch. There were screenshots of my private social media posts, my work emails that had somehow been accessed, and even photos of the inside of my apartment. The most disturbing file was labeled integration_strategy.docs. It outlined Emma's plan to become essential to my life, including specific techniques for mirroring my interests, manipulating my emotions, and isolating me from friends who might become suspicious. Phase 1. Establish contact through shared interests. Become the perfect match by reflecting his preferences and values. Phase 2. Create emotional dependency through consistent positive reinforcement and anticipating needs. Phase 3. Integrate into his social circle and living space. Become indispensable. Phase 4. Permanent integration. Marriage/cohabitation. Complete access to all aspects of his life. I heard Emma's key in the lock and quickly closed the browser window. She walked in with coffee and pastries, smiling brightly. "I got your favorite," she said, holding up a bag from the bakery I'd mentioned liking once. "How's the furniture situation?" I looked at this woman I thought I was falling in love with, and I couldn't recognize her anymore. Everything about her, her smile, her laugh, her apparent thoughtfulness, was a performance based on stolen information about my preferences. "Emma," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "how did you know I liked that bakery? I don't think I ever told you about it." For just a moment, her smile faltered. "You mentioned it a few weeks ago. You said you used to go there with your coworkers." I had mentioned it, but only in passing, and I'd said it was overpriced and I rarely went there anymore. She was confusing her surveillance notes with our actual conversations. "I need to go," I said, grabbing my jacket. "I just remembered I have to help my neighbor with something." Emma's face shifted, and for a brief second, I saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. "Is everything okay? You seem upset." "Everything's fine. I'll call you later." I left her apartment and drove straight to my best friend Marcus's place. I needed to tell someone what I'd discovered, and I needed to figure out what to do next. Marcus listened to my story with growing alarm. "Dude, this is serious stalking behavior. You need to document everything and probably contact the police." "But what if I'm wrong? What if there's an explanation?" "An explanation for her having detailed files about your daily routine and photos of your apartment? Come on, man. This woman has been surveilling you for months." That night, I did some investigating of my own. I checked my apartment for any signs of entry and found small scratches around my door lock that I'd never noticed before. I looked through my belongings and realized several items had been moved or were missing entirely, including a spare key I'd kept in my kitchen drawer. I changed my locks the next morning and installed a security camera system. I also called my credit card companies to check for any unauthorized access to my accounts. What I found made everything worse. Emma had been using my personal information to access my financial records, my medical information, and even my work emails. She'd somehow obtained my social security number and had been monitoring my bank accounts. The level of invasion was staggering. When Emma called that evening, I was ready. "David, you seemed strange earlier. Did I do something wrong?" "Emma, I need to ask you something directly. Have you been following me? Before we met?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder, more calculated. "I don't know what you're talking about. I saw the files on your computer. The schedule, the photos, the integration strategy. I know you've been stalking me." Another long pause. Then Emma laughed, but it wasn't the warm laugh I'd fallen for. It was sharp and bitter. "Stalking is such an ugly word," she said. "I prefer to think of it as being thorough. Do you know how hard it is to find someone worth loving? Someone who deserves the kind of dedication I'm capable of. You've been watching me for months without my knowledge. You've violated my privacy, my security, my trust. That's not love, Emma. That's obsession. I gave you the perfect relationship," she said, her voice rising. "I became exactly what you needed. I made you happier than you'd ever been. And now you want to throw it all away because you can't appreciate the work I put in? The work you put in was illegal. You've been stalking me, Emma. You've accessed my personal information, entered my home without permission, and built an entire fake personality based on stolen data about my preferences. Nothing about my feelings for you is fake," she said, and for a moment she sounded like the Emma I thought I knew. "I love you, David. Everything I did was because I love you. This isn't love. This is possession." "We're done, Emma. Don't contact me again." I hung up the phone, but I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. Over the next few weeks, Emma tried everything to get me back. She sent flowers to my work with cards apologizing for misunderstanding our relationship. She showed up at my gym, my grocery store, and even my parents' house when I was visiting them for the holidays. She called from different numbers, created fake social media accounts to message me, and even had her friends reach out to try to facilitate a reconciliation. The worst part was how believable she sounded when she talked about our relationship. To anyone who didn't know what I'd discovered, Emma seemed like a heartbroken girlfriend who couldn't understand why I'd suddenly turned cold. She was convincing enough that some of my friends initially thought I was being too harsh. It took 3 months of documentation, police reports, and a restraining order before Emma finally stopped trying to contact me. The legal process revealed even more disturbing details. Emma had been stalking other men before me, using similar techniques to insert herself into their lives. I wasn't her first victim, just her most recent one. The experience changed how I think about relationships and privacy. I'm more cautious now about what I share online, more aware of my surroundings, and more skeptical when someone seems too perfect or too interested in my personal details. But the thing that still haunts me isn't just what Emma did, it's how good she was at it. For months, I was completely happy in what I thought was a genuine relationship. If I hadn't seen those files on her computer, I might have married her, never knowing that our entire relationship was built on surveillance and manipulation. The scariest part of dating in the digital age isn't meeting someone who turns out to be different from their profile. It's meeting someone who's done their homework so thoroughly that they can become exactly what you're looking for, using your own information against you. I still wonder how many other perfect matches out there are actually just people who've learned to game the system by studying their targets before making contact. How many seemingly ideal relationships are built on stolen data and carefully orchestrated encounters? Have you ever met someone who seemed too good to be true? Someone who shared all your interests and always knew exactly what to say? Looking back, were there any signs that maybe they knew more about you than they should have? Because sometimes the person who seems perfect for you is perfect precisely because they've been watching you long enough to learn how to be exactly what you want. I thought Jessica's devotion was romantic at first. After dating girls who seemed barely interested, having someone who actually wanted to spend time with me felt amazing. What I didn't realize was that Jessica didn't just want to spend time with me, she needed to control every second of my existence. I met Jessica Rodriguez in March 2022 at a bookstore in Portland, Oregon. She was petite with bright green eyes, and we talked for an hour about science fiction books. Our first date lasted 6 hours. She hung on every word and seemed fascinated by everything I said. Within 2 weeks, we were seeing each other daily. Jessica would text me good morning before my alarm and good night after I'd gone to bed. She'd surprise me with lunch at work and always had free time when I was available. The first red flag came when I planned a weekend camping trip with my college friend Mike. "I was hoping we could go to that new art gallery this weekend," Jessica said. "I already bought tickets." I hadn't mentioned weekend plans to her. She'd bought tickets without asking, then made me feel guilty for having other commitments. "Am I not enough for you?" became Jessica's default response to any activity that didn't include her. The camping trip turned into constant texts asking where I was and when I'd be back. She sent pictures of herself looking sad with captions like, "Missing you so much." When I returned, Jessica was waiting in my apartment. She'd gotten my spare key from my landlord by claiming to be my girlfriend who needed to water plants. "Jessica, you can't just let yourself into my apartment. We need boundaries." "Boundaries?" She looked hurt. "What do you need privacy from me for? What are you hiding?" She'd been abandoned by everyone she'd cared about. Her father left when she was young. Her mother was distant. Her last boyfriend cheated. I was the first person who'd made her feel safe. I felt like an asshole for setting boundaries and apologized instead of standing firm. Over the summer, Jessica's need for constant contact escalated. If I didn't respond to texts within 20 minutes, she'd call. If I didn't answer, she'd show up wherever I might be. She started sabotaging my other relationships. When I made plans with friends, Jessica would suddenly have a crisis. She'd get sick, have car trouble, or have panic attacks that left her unable to be alone. My friends started joking that Jessica had the worst luck, always having emergencies when I had other plans. When I brought Jessica to group activities, she'd cling to my side, barely talk to anyone else, and suggest we leave early. My friends stopped inviting me to things rather than deal with her possessive behavior. By September, I realized I hadn't spent a single evening alone in 4 months. Jessica was always there, at my apartment, office, gym, grocery store. She'd rearranged her work schedule to match mine. "Why would you want to be alone when you could be with me?" she'd ask whenever I mentioned wanting solitude. I started working late just to have time to myself, but Jessica would show up with dinner and wait. When I tried to read, she'd sit next to me asking questions every few minutes. "Can I just have an hour to read?" I asked one Saturday. "Of course," Jessica said, then sat watching me read, her own book unopened. Every time I turned a page, she'd smile at me. "Jessica, you're staring at me. I like looking at you. You're so handsome when you're concentrating." Jessica couldn't exist in the same space without making me the center of her attention. She couldn't read her own book or have her own thoughts without involving me. The breaking point came in October when I got food poisoning. Jessica insisted on staying to take care of me. I woke up 3 hours later to find her sitting next to my bed, watching me sleep. "You were watching me sleep? I wanted to make sure you were breathing okay. You look so peaceful." "Jessica, that's not normal. I do it all the time. You're such a heavy sleeper, you never notice." "What do you mean you do it all the time?" "When I stay over, I like to watch you sleep. It makes me feel close to you." The way she said, "watching you exist," made my skin crawl. It sounded like she viewed me as entertainment rather than a human being. I researched obsessive behavior in relationships and realized Jessica's behavior wasn't just clingy, it was emotional abuse called engulfment. She was systematically erasing my boundaries and isolating me from friends. "I think we need to take a break," I told her the next evening. "I need space to figure out what I want." Jessica's reaction was immediate and extreme. She started crying hysterically, hyperventilating, and begging me not to leave. "I'll die without you," she sobbed. "You're all I have. I can't exist without you. Jessica, that's not healthy. You need to be able to exist as your own person. I don't want to be my own person. I want to be part of us." The final straw came when I decided to visit my parents for the weekend without telling Jessica. I needed to get away completely. Saturday morning, I woke up to find Jessica sitting in my parents' living room, chatting with my mother over coffee. "How did you know I was here?" "I went to your apartment to surprise you with breakfast, and when you weren't there, I got worried. I called your mom." Jessica's ability to make her stalking behavior sound like caring was masterful. She trained me to feel guilty for wanting privacy. That afternoon, I told Jessica our relationship was over. She cried, screamed, and threatened to hurt herself. "You made me believe you loved me," she said. "You made me think we had something special. We did have something special. But it became unhealthy. I devoted my entire life to you. I made you my everything. How is that unhealthy?" "Because I need to be my own person, Jessica. I need friends, hobbies, and time alone. I don't understand why you need those things when you have me." That was the core problem. Jessica genuinely couldn't understand why I would want anything that didn't include her. In her mind, love meant complete merger and total possession. Breaking up with Jessica was like leaving a cult. She called hundreds of times, sent long emails, and showed up at my apartment, office, and gym. She'd sit outside my building for hours. I had to get a restraining order. Even then, Jessica found ways to monitor my social media and send messages through fake accounts. She'd created a life that revolved entirely around me, and when I removed myself, she had nothing left. The experience taught me the difference between love and obsession. Love wants the other person to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include you. Obsession needs to possess, control, and consume. 2 years later, I heard she'd done the same thing to another guy, isolated him from friends, demanded constant attention, and made him feel guilty for wanting independence. Some people mistake intensity for love, possession for devotion. But real love gives you room to breathe, space to grow, and the freedom to be yourself. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you couldn't breathe? Where someone's love felt more like suffocation than support? How do you tell the difference between someone who loves you and someone who just needs to own you? I thought Rachel was going through a rough patch when her personality started changing. Some days she'd be warm and loving, other days cold and distant. It took me 4 months to discover the truth. I wasn't dating one person. I was dating identical twins who had been switching places, and I had no idea which one was my actual girlfriend. I met Rachel Martinez in January 2023 at a gym in Austin, Texas. She was beautiful, long dark hair, athletic build, and a smile that lit up the room. We connected immediately over our shared love of rock climbing and craft beer. Rachel worked as a graphic designer and lived in a downtown apartment. She was funny, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in building something serious. We started dating exclusively after 3 weeks. Everything was perfect until March, when Rachel's behavior became inconsistent. Some days she'd remember intimate details about our conversations, other days she'd seem confused about things we'd discussed at length. Her texting style would change, sometimes playful and full of inside jokes, other times formal and distant. "Did you finish that project you were stressed about?" I'd ask. "What project?" she'd respond, looking genuinely confused. "The one for your biggest client. You were working late on it all week." "Oh, right. Yeah, it's fine." I attributed these lapses to work stress. Rachel had mentioned having a busy period at her design firm. The physical inconsistencies started in April. Rachel's apartment would be completely rearranged between visits. Her taste in food would change dramatically. 1 week she'd crave sushi, the next she'd claim to hate seafood. She'd forget our plans, then insist we'd never made them. "I thought we were going to the concert tonight," I'd say. "What concert? I don't like that band." "You bought the tickets, Rachel. You said they were your favorite. I think you're confused." Most disturbing were the personality shifts. My Rachel was outgoing and confident, but sometimes she'd be shy and withdrawn. She'd seem surprised by her own belongings, forget her own stories, and react strangely to photos of us together. "When did we take this?" she'd ask about a picture from the week before. "Last Tuesday, at the lake. You insisted we take it." "I don't remember that." I started documenting the inconsistencies. Rachel's handwriting would change. Her exercise routine would shift completely. She'd claim to have allergies she never mentioned, then eat food she'd previously said made her sick. The breaking point came in May when I arrived at her apartment, unannounced. I knocked for 10 minutes before using the spare key she'd given me. The apartment was empty, but I heard voices from the bedroom. I found Rachel having an intense conversation with someone who looked exactly like her, same height, same hair, same face, same voice. They were wearing nearly identical clothes and arguing in hushed tones. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. Both women turned to me with identical expressions of shock. The one I'd been talking to when I arrived spoke first. "David, I can explain." "No, let me," said the other one. "I'm Rachel. This is my twin sister, Rebecca." "I'm Rachel," the first one insisted. "She's Rebecca." I stood there staring at 2 identical women, both claiming to be my girlfriend of 4 months. They had the same face, same voice, same mannerisms. I couldn't tell them apart. "One of you needs to explain what's going on. Now." The women looked at each other, then the one on the left side. "I'm Rebecca," she said. "Rachel is my twin sister. We've been sharing your relationship." "What do you mean, sharing?" "We both liked you." said the other woman, who I now knew was Rachel. So we decided to take turns. Take turns? You've been pretending to be each other? Not pretending, Rebecca said. We're identical twins. We've been doing this our whole lives, sharing friends, sharing experiences, sharing boyfriends. We thought you'd figure it out eventually, Rachel added. Most people do. Most people? You've done this before? We've been switching places since we were kids, Rebecca explained. It's just something we do. We share everything. You share everything? Including me? We both fell for you, Rachel said. So we decided to see where it went. I felt sick. Every intimate moment, every conversation, every shared experience, I had no idea which twin I'd been with. The woman I'd made love to, the one I'd confided in, the one I'd started falling for. It could have been either of them. Which one of you did I meet at the gym? Me, Rachel said. No, that was me, Rebecca corrected. You were at the gym with Mark. I was there alone. Wait, you don't even know which one of you I met first? We both went to that gym, Rachel said. We saw you there multiple times. When Rebecca approached you, I thought it was brilliant. When you asked her out, we decided to share the experience. Share the experience? I'm not an experience. I'm a person who thought I was in a relationship with one person. Technically you were, Rebecca said. We're basically the same person. You're not the same person. You're two different people who've been lying to me for months. The more they explained, the worse it got. They'd been coordinating their deception through text messages, sharing details about our conversations, and briefing each other on our dates. They'd created a shared phone number that forwarded to both their phones. They'd been living in the same apartment, taking turns staying there when I visited. What about your job? I asked Rachel. We both work at the same design firm, she said. We share that too. Some days I go in, some days she does. Our boss thinks we're one person working flexible hours. And you thought this was normal? It's normal for us, Rebecca said. We've been doing this since college. We share boyfriends, jobs, even identities. It's more efficient. More efficient than what? Being honest? Most guys can't handle dating twins, Rachel said. They either fetishize it or get weird about it. This way, you get the best of both of us without complications. Without complications? You've been gaslighting me for months. I'd been slowly losing my mind, questioning my memory and perception because I was actually dating two different people with two different personalities, preferences, and ways of being in the world. Which one of you has allergies to shellfish? I asked. I do, Rebecca said. And which one hates horror movies? Me, Rachel said. And which one told me about her childhood dog? They looked at each other, then both said, me, at the same time. You don't even know which stories you've told me, I said. You've been making up details about your life because you can't keep track of what the other person said. We remember all the important stuff, Rebecca insisted. What's important to you isn't important to me. I wanted to know one person, not some composite character you've created. The worst part was realizing that every intimate moment had been a lie. I'd never made love to the same person twice. I'd never had a real conversation with one consistent individual. I'd been dating a performance created by two people who saw me as entertainment. Which one of you actually likes me? I asked. We both do, Rachel said. No, which one of you actually likes me as a person, not as a game? They couldn't answer. They'd been so focused on maintaining the deception that they'd never considered what they actually wanted from me individually. I'm done, I said. With both of you. This is sick. David, wait. Rebecca called as I headed for the door. We can explain. I don't want explanations. I want honesty, and clearly that's something neither of you is capable of. I left the apartment and never looked back. I blocked both their numbers, changed my gym, and avoided places where I might run into them. The experience messed with my head for months. I'd question whether the people I was dating were being honest about basic facts about themselves. I'd look for inconsistencies in their stories, changes in their behavior, or signs that they weren't who they claimed to be. Rachel and Rebecca had treated me like a toy they could share, a game they could play. They'd robbed me of the chance to know either of them as real people, and they'd stolen 4 months of my life for their twisted experiment. I later learned from a mutual friend that they'd done this to at least 3 other guys. It was their standard operating procedure: find someone they both liked, then take turns dating him until he figured it out or they got bored. The worst part wasn't just the deception, it was the realization that I'd never actually been in a relationship at all. I'd been dating a fictional character created by 2 people who saw relationships as performances rather than genuine connections. Have you ever felt like someone you were dating was acting like a completely different person from day to day? Have you ever questioned your own memory because someone's behavior was so inconsistent? Because sometimes the person you think you're getting to know is actually 2 people, and neither of them is being honest about who they really are. I thought Amanda was just really attentive. She remembered every detail about my life, anticipated my needs perfectly, and seemed to genuinely care about understanding me. What I discovered was that Amanda wasn't just paying attention, she was conducting a psychological study on me, documenting my behavior like I was a lab rat. I met Amanda Thompson in June 2023 at a coffee shop in Denver, Colorado. She was stunning, blonde hair, blue eyes, and an infectious laugh. We talked for hours about psychology, which she was studying at the University of Colorado. She seemed fascinated by human behavior and asked thoughtful questions about my work as an accountant. Amanda was perfect from day one. She remembered that I liked my coffee with oat milk, that I was stressed about a difficult client, and that I'd mentioned wanting to try a new hiking trail. She'd bring me exactly what I needed when I was having a bad day, suggest activities I'd love, and somehow always knew the right thing to say. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" I asked her one evening in July. "I pay attention," she said, kissing my cheek. "I want to understand what makes you happy." By August, we were practically inseparable. Amanda would come to my apartment in Highlands Ranch most nights, and we'd spend weekends exploring Colorado's mountains. She was working on her senior thesis about behavioral patterns in relationships, which she said was inspired by our connection. The first strange thing I noticed was how Amanda would sometimes pull out her phone during our conversations and type quick notes. When I asked about it, she'd say she was jotting down grocery lists or work reminders. "Sorry, I don't want to forget to buy milk," she'd explain, then put her phone away and give me her full attention. Amanda also asked a lot of specific questions about my routines and preferences. She wanted to know what time I woke up, what I ate for breakfast, how I felt about certain situations, and what triggered my moods. I thought she was just being considerate. "Do you prefer when I text you during work or wait until evening?" she'd ask. "What makes you feel most relaxed after a stressful day? How do you typically handle conflict in relationships?" Her questions felt like genuine interest in being the best girlfriend possible. Amanda would implement my answers perfectly, texting at exactly the right times, creating the perfect post-work atmosphere, and handling disagreements exactly how I'd said I preferred. The red flag came in September when I was looking for a charger in Amanda's backpack. Instead of the charger, I found a small notebook filled with detailed observations about me, written in her neat handwriting. Day 47. Subject prefers physical affection when stressed about work. Responds positively to back rubs and minimal verbal communication. Note: avoid discussing finances during these periods. Day 52. Subject's mood improves significantly with surprise gestures. Brought coffee to his office. Mood elevated for remainder of day. File under positive reinforcement strategies. Day 58. Subject becomes irritable when hungry. Exhibits signs of low blood sugar around 3 p.m. Preemptive snack intervention successful. There were dozens of entries, each one analyzing my behavior, emotional patterns, and responses to different stimuli. Amanda had been studying me like a research subject, documenting everything from my sleep patterns to my sexual preferences. "Amanda, what is this?" I asked, holding up the notebook. She looked genuinely surprised, then embarrassed. Oh, that's just notes for my thesis. I'm sorry, I should have asked permission first. You've been documenting my behavior for months without telling me? It's not like that, she said quickly. I'm studying relationship dynamics. You're helping me understand how couples communicate and connect. I didn't consent to be part of your study. I know, and I'm sorry. But look how well it's working. I've been able to make you so happy because I understand your patterns. I flipped through more pages. Amanda had cataloged everything: my favorite foods, my stress responses, my social preferences, even my bathroom habits. She'd created charts tracking my moods, graphs showing my energy levels throughout the day, and detailed analyses of what she called my behavioral triggers. This is insane, Amanda. You've been treating me like a psychology experiment. I've been treating you like someone I love, she insisted. I wanted to understand you completely so I could be the perfect girlfriend. The perfect girlfriend doesn't secretly document her boyfriend's behavior. That night, I went through Amanda's laptop while she was in the shower. What I found was even worse than the notebook. She had spreadsheets tracking my activities, detailed reports on my social interactions, and video recordings of our conversations that she'd been analyzing for her thesis. Her senior project was titled Behavioral Modification in Romantic Relationships, a Case Study in Unconscious Conditioning. I was the case study. Amanda had been using psychological techniques to shape my behavior without my knowledge. She'd been implementing reward and punishment systems, testing my responses to different stimuli, and documenting which methods were most effective at influencing my actions. Phase 1: Baseline Establishment. Subject exhibits standard male behavioral patterns. Responds predictably to positive reinforcement. Phase 2: Conditioning Implementation. Subject's behavior successfully modified through strategic reward timing. Increased compliance noted. Phase 3: Advanced Manipulation. Subject now displays conditioned responses to specific triggers. Behavioral modification 87% successful. She'd been conditioning me like a pet, training me to respond to her cues and behave in ways that suited her study. The Perfect Girlfriend Act was just a method for gathering data. Amanda, I found your thesis, I said when she came out of the bathroom. Her face went pale. David, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been psychologically manipulating me for months? That our entire relationship is a lie? Our relationship isn't a lie. I really do love you. You love me? Or you love having a compliant test subject? Both, she said quietly. I started this as research, but I fell in love with you. The study helped me understand how to make you happy. You made me happy by lying to me and violating my privacy. I made you happy by paying attention to what you needed and giving it to you. You made me happy by manipulating me based on secret psychological profiles. Amanda tried to justify her actions by claiming she'd used her research to become a better partner. She'd studied my patterns to anticipate my needs, analyzed my communication style to avoid conflicts, and documented my preferences to create the perfect relationship. Don't you see how much better our relationship is because I understand you so well? She asked. Our relationship is built on deception and manipulation. You've been studying me like a lab rat. I've been loving you scientifically. That's not love, Amanda. That's control. I ended the relationship that night. Amanda begged me to reconsider, promising to delete all her research and start over honestly. But I couldn't trust anything about her anymore. Every sweet gesture, every thoughtful surprise, every moment of connection had been calculated based on her psychological analysis of my behavior. Later, I learned that Amanda had submitted her thesis using our relationship as the primary case study. She'd gotten an A+ for her innovative approach to behavioral psychology, and had been accepted to a graduate program specializing in social manipulation. The experience left me paranoid about future relationships. I'd question whether girlfriends were being genuinely caring or just studying my reactions. I'd wonder if their kindness was authentic or part of some psychological experiment. Amanda had treated me like a research subject instead of a human being. She'd stolen my agency, violated my privacy, and manipulated my emotions, all in the name of academic achievement and relationship perfection. The scariest part wasn't just the documentation, it was how effective her methods had been. I'd been completely happy in our relationship because Amanda had engineered it to be exactly what I wanted based on her psychological analysis. Have you ever felt like someone knew you almost too well? Like they could predict your needs and reactions with uncanny accuracy? Sometimes that perfect understanding isn't intuition or love, it's someone who's been studying you like a science experiment, and you're just the latest subject in their research. Thanks so much for watching. I can't express enough how much your support means. The likes, the comments, it all really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I always take the time to read them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on any new videos. See you next time.